Hey, and welcome back to Twin Flame Path. Happy Friday. Um, Friday, wherever you are. I hope that it's a good one. Um, Everything here is good on the home front. As you can see, I'm doing another daytime video. Um, Still getting used to that kind of situation, but I hope the lighting is okay. But yeah, so what's been on my mind lately is I guess you can just call it the collective. You know, it's like what came to mind was being thankful for all the people who helped you and your twin flame to be together. Whether you guys are together in this 3D life right now, like face to face, or not, just, it you can't do it alone. And I have to admit and apologize for my selfishness, because after my twin and I met or were introduced to each other, I noticed a lot of things were happening. Things, it seemed like a lot more people got involved or were exposed as being involved or having been involved. And I don't mean exposed like they were hiding. I just mean exposed like it came to my realization, like it on my radar. I realized, like, oh, there was a lot more people than I expected that led up to this circumstance, led up to us knowing each other. I think in our circumstance, in our situation, other people knew about us before we knew about us, or at least me. I tend to think that he knew beforehand, and that comes from what my understanding from what my understanding is. I believe before we came into this world, this time, that I guess I just wanted to make things hard. I think I was holding a bit of a grudge, and for like not getting my way a little bit, and I just set it up like, I'm not gonna know, I'm not gonna remember. This is gonna have to really come into fruition for me to have any kind of inkling. And that kind of mentality traveled with me into this incarnation. After realizing that, or maybe around the same time as realizing that, or whatever came first, the chicken or the egg, it doesn't matter, like, because what it does is like it flip-flops. It's like I'll learn about these things and then I'll relearn it, and then something else will happen where I've experienced it and I think that I know, and then it'll happen again and I'm just like, and so yeah, set myself up. I'm sorry about that, but in our situation, it took me longer to catch on, I think, because I set up so many roadblocks, or maybe had some things to do that, I think it's a blend. But ultimately, there were a lot along the way that led my twin and I to be pinpointed towards one another. And after that happened, I have to admit, my greediness just got the best of me recently. But yeah, I think in the beginning I was okay, and I didn't really realize how many people. When I'm talking about people, we're talking about like in the spiritual community, in 3D. But I think 3D is a big part of it, but I think primarily in 5D there just is a lot of work. And the closer that you get, it's like I notice that like my jealousy and insecurity and thinking that that's kind of like what love is, and I guess greediness with love, and not wanting to share, and not share like with other people, like intimately or romantically. But I don't know, I think I got that mixed up. I think I got a lot of things mixed up, and it seemed as if there was no room for me. And what I had to realize, that there is always a space that is like designated just for me, and it's a permanent space. And how I know that is that that's how it is for him. Like there is one place in my soul and in my heart, and you can call that like, you can imagine a throne that has little hearts and anything that he wants on it, and that's like the space that's designated for my beloved. And it's a permanent space, and it's a space that only has his name on it, and it's only for him permanently. And what's funny is that that's how it's always been. Even before I knew what a twin flame was, before we met, before we knew of each other, at least in this consciousness, because I think subconsciously everything about me was naturally geared towards him. Things that I learned about him, I realized, these are things that I've always had an appreciation for. Like, I've always liked learning languages. And I started studying his before I knew him, I started having an appreciation for things from his culture before I even knew what country this was, before I even really knew countries, before I knew, places on a map. We had a globe in my house when I was growing up, and I would look at it a lot. But before I even knew, like, where places were, what continents were which one, like what continent was what, and all that kind of stuff, like, I would find things and I would enjoy them. And then as I got older, I found out that these things were from the same place. And then I found out about where the place was. And then, it was like, oh, and then little things about just, I think just how I am as a person, especially like with art and things like that, it meshes well. like, with what he does and what he has a preference for, So, I kind of lost track. I got kind of excited about that situation, but yeah, I do think that things about people who are in a twin flame connection, that the things in each other's lives play vital roles in the whole scheme of things. And another thing that I've been witnessing a lot of lately is how deep the mirroring effect is and the different ways that it can happen. Just like that throne, like I was talking, that's where I was coming from. That throne situation came from going through a difficult period of days, and then coming out of that, reading an article, and the article was speaking about the mirroring. And one big part of the article was, they need you to love them the way you need them to love you. I've gotten to this point where, call it an addiction. I don't know what the healthy way of categorizing this is. Obsession, addiction, I don't know. A need is how I like to look at it. A deep need. Like, I can't go without this, and realizing the permanence of these things, how deep the connection is, how deep it always has been, through many lifetimes, or through many incarnations. That's a reassuring thing, because I don't want to go anywhere, like, ever. And I don't really think about his side, I think about it like, what can I do for you? Or I'm not even that giving, it's like, I think about me, my need to want to love him, how much I enjoy loving him, and I rarely think about him enjoying loving me, and I think that's where I got myself tied up. I got to this point where, that point where I was at was asking myself, like, you love me, you want to be with me, like, basically I'm not worthy, and that was something that I kind of let my mind run wild with, and I'm not sure how that was making him feel. At the very least, it may have been offending him because I'm an extension of him and he wouldn't want me to be hurt even if I'm hurting myself. But not to get too off topic, but that last point, let that kind of like sink in, because it's important not to beat yourself up because they do feel you. So if at the very least, I have to learn how to get my mind right, because I'll get carried away, and I think I do a pretty good job of preventing that, or keeping a hold on that, but then something will happen and it just will kind of catapult out of control, spiral out of control. And the things that I noticed that kind of do this the most are, well, I think the number one is jealousy. And I think jealousy kind of stems from insecurity, maybe in your looks, or whatever it is. It's like, I know I feel like that. And, then it'll just be like, well, I'm not really good enough for him. And then it'll just, and, another thing that article, went over was focusing on just like loving entirely, and that's something that may help when you're going through any kind of time where, you may need a little reassurance or, I don't know, encouragement. Because one thing that happened, even when I was thinking like, basically, I'm not worthy, when I would kind of come to the surface and be a little bit calm, even, in the midst of the storm, it's like when you're in the ocean and the waves are like coming and, they're coming one after another, but then like you only get like these little, times of getting air and then another wave comes. That's kind of how this little time for me was. But when I would surface, it just would hurt, because it would hurt and feel good at the same time, because I would just think like, is that how it feels to be without you? It's like that jealousy creates distance, and when I would kind of let that go for like, even if just it's an hour or so, it would feel so good to be back. All I would think of is, it feels so good to love you, I don't want to stop, and that's good for the other person, but that's kind of a selfish thing too. But I have to admit, like, it's just how it is. And so all in all, even the smallest things in your life, like every detail in your life, kind of will mirror your twin in some way. And that is something to really think about. In whatever way it applies to you, but it wasn't something that I really considered until I went through a point where I wasn't feeling secure about what I was providing. And when I was able to know what he provides me, in my imagination, I could imagine, well, this may feel just as good for him. And that gave me the security that I needed to get past my jealousy and greediness. And then that led me to realizing how much help we've had and coming back to being thankful. And staying thankful is a good way of winning when it seems like you're losing. I also had other things happening in my life, as far as like career, school. Oh gosh, like I really thought I was gonna fail this class, and I was just like blown. And I spent a lot of time, like the last day of the semester, like trying to spend a lot of time on a project that I never really got too far with, and I was disappointed in myself with that. I had a client that I was kind of going back and forth with on things, and it all led to positive things, but it was all stressful. And in my, I guess, personal life, not personal life because he's a part of everything, but in some aspects of my life I was just feeling like I was losing, and then it just stemmed into other things, and then it came to like, I don't know why you love me. So, I don't know how that would mirror in his life, honestly, because, yeah, I don't know about that part, because his work is perfect. So, I'm sure with anything there's room for growth, but that's just a technicality. Like after you reach a certain like caliber, it's like everything else is just a decision. Like I felt like doing this. Me, I'm like young grasshopper, and I've been young grasshopper for like ever, and part of that is kind of like I want to impress you, but I can't even impress myself. I can't even get to this point where I'm thinking what I can present to you is impressive. So I don't know, but the keys are stay thankful, stay positive, kind if you can, and try to take things easy on yourself, because you guys feel each other. So, but on that note, I'm gonna go, and yeah, take care in the meanwhile, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.